We've been getting so much new Black Series news lately that I just was waiting to make this video, but I think it's time. Also, all of the in-hand photos that we're going to see from Celebration are from Star Wars Showcase, who will be linked below. The first one we're going to look at is the Darth Maul with the old Master skin. This is often referenced as his Rebels look. It's actually a little bit different. It's based on the Battlefront 2 appearance. This was a skin that was pretty difficult to get. I think you had to get 5,000 kills while playing as Darth Maul in Battlefront 2. This could be easily modified into his Rebels appearance, and I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw that happening, especially with so many new Rebels characters showing up in the Ahsoka show. I think we're going to get all of those re-released in Ahsoka packaging. Not re-released, but re-sculpted, since we've got live-action actors now. This next figure is not one that I ever thought I would see made. Here you see him at Disneyland, hitting that subscribe button and dinging that bell. This is the guy that runs the shop at Disneyland where you can actually buy lightsabers and that sort of thing. Surprisingly, this is one of many people's most anticipated figures, including mine. Maybe not my number one, but it's definitely up there, considering that this was like never a character that I ever saw on anyone's wish list or anything like that. But now that we've seen him and seen it announced, everyone is so excited. And also this really opens the door for other Hammerhead Ithorian sculpts like Mayor Mok Shaiz, or of course the Hammerhead from the original trilogy. The fourth sister has been in production for so long. I literally saw this figure at Star Wars Celebration in 2022. She was supposed to be released in an earlier wave, but I think they pushed her so they could fit those 4 Andor figures and get those out while the show was still airing, or at least close to it. This is a silly thing to mention, but the Fifth Brothers box said Fifth Brother Inquisitor in parentheses, and for the fourth sister it says Inquisitor, that like that's her name, and then in parentheses fourth sister. I just thought that was a little bit weird, but that's probably just a prototype box. Also shown a very long time ago and also probably just pushed back was the Jabiim Obi-Wan. This is the Figuarts one that is coming out as well. I think that looks great, but we're just talking about the Black Series here. This was in hand at Celebration 2023, and a lot of people were talking about how good it looked. The face looks incredible. I think it's hard to see in these photos, I'm sorry, but I think the original Wandering Jedi Obi-Wan was kind of rushed out, but this one just looks so much better. If we were going to get a Tala figure, I was hoping it would be one of her other looks, but this Imperial one is pretty cool, and it's from an action sequence. And of course this opens the door to female Imperial officers, and I am like 90% sure we're gonna see, probably 99% sure that we're gonna see this body reused for Dedra Meero from the Andor series. But I am not sure why this figure is taking so long to come out. Vel Sartha is also from Andor. We have this figure in TVC already. It is from the Aldhani heist. I think this is the right look to give for Vel. This is her most like action-focused sequence, and I think one of the coolest sequences in Andor as a whole. I don't think that the likeness is incredible on this figure. It's definitely not bad. I hope this figure does well, although I feel like people are kind of over Andor at this point, at least not until Season 2 comes out and that hype starts building again. But she's gonna look great next to the Aldhani heist Cassian Andor on the shelf. Darth Malak is a character from Knights of the Old Republic. This game was going to get remastered, and so I think we were seeing a lot of figures getting announced and coming out for that, including Zalbar the Wookiee, which came out a couple years ago. But Eric from the Hasbro team has said that he is a huge fan of the games, especially this game, and so I think we're going to continue getting some amazing figures. They have actually announced Darth Malgus as well. I think the color on this one is a little too vibrant. I probably will give this a dark wash. I know it's, you know, technically an animated character, I guess you could say, if you count video games as animation. But I don't know, the red is not really reading as very Star Wars-y to me, and it looks a little bit pink in hand, especially compared to how it looks in the game. But I feel like that's pretty typical to get figures that are a little bit brighter in color. I'm just thinking back to like the Queel figure. But a lot of live action footage is color graded, so those colors get muted and taken down a lot more to look cool and Star Wars-y. In a lot of cases, the Hasbro team is actually working with concept art and or set photos rather than the actual finished product. But anyway, Bastila Shan, also from Knights of the Old Republic, looking really great in person. That sculpting and paint detail on her clothes is amazing. Next we have Clone Commander Jesse. A lot of people claim that he's not technically a clone commander, other than for a few minutes in the Clone Wars finale. Also, this helmet is inaccurate. He does not have that wing on the top of his head, nor does he have the rangefinder on the side. Hopefully you won't have to wait very long for Jesse, because Yakface just reported today that many cases of him have just arrived to the US, so hopefully he will be on shelves very soon. This next figure, Ki-Adi-Mundi, you know, he's a prequel Jedi, he's an alien character, it's a brand new sculpt, there is so much to love here. The only thing is that it is pipelined for so far out. I think they said this was coming in 2024. it's hard to get really excited for it when you know that it's so far away, but I think when this comes out, it is going to be a favorite of many collectors. In possibly one of the most reused bodies of the past couple years, the Clone Commander from the Bad Batch in the plain white look. This is of course the same body that we saw for Hunter, as well as the Republic Commando guys that are just way too small. And seeing how many times they've reused this mold, it just really makes it clear that they could have probably spent the money on the tooling to get it properly proportioned. But hindsight is 2020, and Hasbro probably is thinking the same thing. But in hand, these always look a little bit better, and they also scale pretty well with the clone troopers that are already on your shelf. In the Bad Batch Season 2, they showed up with slightly different armor, which makes sense given that they are hiding from the Empire, that they would make those modifications. I really love the color palette here on all of the Bad Batch. I love the oranges and the greens and the yellows. I think that these figures look amazing. I actually have custom heads from an artist called Fetclan, who I mention all the time on my page, but on all my Bad Batch characters from Season 1, and so I might get all of these figures and display them with the helmets on, because I think that the look overall is a lot more interesting here with the helmets on. And there is a lot of reuse going on here, but I think that they recreated the pieces that they're supposed to. I'm actually surprised how much new sculpting there actually is on these figures if you really stop and look at them. But I am totally getting these. I know a lot of people were on the fence, and the Season 1 look is kind of the iconic Bad Batch look in most people's heads. But honestly, after watching the second season and just loving this character design and just seeing how well the figures came out, I'm pretty excited to get all of these. And Hunter in his Season 1 outfit is one of the hardest figures to get right now at a reasonable price, and so I'm curious to see how that's going to affect people's decision in getting these. Maybe people who weren't able to complete the crew the first time around will be getting these. Also, Tech comes with his goggles sculpted onto his face with these amazing translucent lenses. It looks so much better than the first time around. I think we all understand the production limitations the first time around that prevented the goggles from being on his face, but here they just look amazing. I think it's also interesting that these figures are labeled mercenary gear. It's not really a title that I would have come up with for this look, but I guess they don't really ever say like Season 1, Season 2 on the boxes. They'll usually label them based on the planet that they are on or the situation that they are in, such as like Cassian Andor Aldhani heist. I think one of the most significant releases from this group, though, is the Omega figure. She's the only one that's actually going to be mainline. The rest are Walmart exclusives, I believe. The first figure had that little gem on her head that she only has in the first episode, so it was hard to recreate certain scenes with that. They usually try to load smaller figures with more accessories, so the first time they gave us that weird ruby creature that I barely remembered from the show, but this time that accessory has been replaced with an alternate head, which is extremely rare to see in the Black Series. It's something that a lot of people want to see a lot more, rather than helmets that go over characters' heads, but hopefully this is a sign of many things to come. So R2-D2 has been underscaled in the Black Series since the beginning of the line, including all of the other astromechs that are made on that same body, so it's nice to see that R2-D2 is getting a re-release with a brand new tool that is properly scaled, and along with that we are getting a ton of other astromech droids. Surprisingly, we already got R5-D4 revealed as part of Mandomania. Technically, this is the first Season 3 Mandalorian character that we're actually seeing as part of Mandomania, so this is also a really good sign for the Black Series that they are taking a figure that is 10 years old and completely rebuilding it from scratch. It gives me the sense that they have plans for this line for years to come, and I'm personally hoping for a retool of Luke, Han, and Leia from A New Hope. This Endor Rebel Commando is a really exciting release. He has the swappable face like we saw in the Hoth Trooper. I do wish that the joints on the knee were a little bit painted or darker, just because when the legs are bent it looks a little bit silly with the camo pattern just totally disappearing there. But overall, I think this figure looks super high quality, and I'm really excited to get it in the line. Next we have yet another Luke Skywalker in the black outfit here. This is probably one of the better faces that I've seen. This is of course probably a prototype render, and the official one might actually look a little bit worse when it's finally released. That we've seen happen many times, but he comes with the alternate chest plate there so you can switch out his look. Speaking of face renders versus final product, let's take a look at the Return of the Jedi Vader here. He has the removable helmet and then the switchable arm piece to give that chopped off hand look, but during the presentation at Celebration they showed this amazing looking head sculpt underneath the helmet here, and then they put it out for display, and ooh, that looks worse than the Tython Boba Fett first release. A long-awaited figure that just didn't seem like it was ever going to come out ever again was Jabba the Hutt, and this one comes with Salacious Crumb as well as the hookah and the little armrest there that came with the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, which goes for about $200 now. This set is going to be $90, which accounting for inflation is still a price hike, But that also ignores the fact that if you were going to get this at retail price, you would have to have attended SDCC and stood in line to get it. But either way, this is now currently the cheapest way that you can get this entire set here. Next we have the Force Ghost 3-pack that a lot of people seemed really excited for at the Hasbro panel. I'm personally not a fan of these, I just don't think they look all that great, and they don't really give me that translucent effect. But it is so exciting to see a new head from Hasbro for Episode 3 Anakin. I wish that we were getting that figure re-release, this Revenge of the Sith look. But I still think this is a kind of cool release. You know, if you want it, you can get it. It's definitely not necessary to have in any collection, but I think some people are going to really enjoy this, and I love to see that. The first time they released Force Ghost Yoda, he was definitely oversized, so now this is I think it's the same body that we saw with the Dagobah 2-pack, much smaller and just a little bit more appropriate for Yoda. I definitely like the way that these look on the card backs rather than loose. And if I can get these early to review on the channel, I will, but otherwise I don't really see these being a part of my permanent display. Next we have the Cobb Vanth and Cad Bane 2-pack. The Cobb Vanth is a new sculpt on the torso. Previously we had him with the Boba Fett armor, of course, but they've added some texture to the shirt here and a new scarf. We're getting Cad Bane released separately in his Book of Boba Fett appearance, but this one is going to have a slightly different expression, and then the individually released Cad Bane is going to have some blast effects and a fire effect. But this has been a very highly desired figure ever since he appeared in the Book of Boba Fett. While we're on the BOBF train, we've got the Tusken Chieftain here. This looks like it's got the same soft goods fabric that we saw in the original Tusken Raider. The actual sculptor herself mentioned that she didn't like the way the soft goods were styled in the photos, but I think with some finagling you can get them to look pretty good. Next we have the Pike Soldier. I was really excited to get these in the line when I saw them in the show. I thought they would be a great troop builder, but unfortunately this just seems to come with the one gold face. Perhaps they will re-release that on a different figure or a different card back later on with the orange or the silver face. Next we have the Grogu and Luke Skywalker 2-pack. This Luke is actually a new sculpt, or it has some newly sculpted features. We see that torso overlay onto the harder body that we've seen on a lot of Black Series figures lately that I really like. I think the figure moves nicely. The softer material kind of gets out of the way of certain poses if you do need it to. And it seems to allow for a greater variety of figures for possibly cheaper production costs since you're not really sculpting an entirely new piece. We've been seeing this on a lot of new releases lately and I fully support it. Next is probably the most anticipated figure of the year, possibly top 10 Black Series of all time, Black Krrsantan. I got to see this in person at Star Wars Celebration. It looks absolutely amazing. I'm really excited to see how it moves and how it feels in hand. I think he's going to be really heavy. Hasbro knew that they had to absolutely nail this sculpt. And I really think this is one of the best looking action figures of all time. It totally captures the character, and I can't wait to have that one in hand. So we do have a lot more figures pipelined that I'm not going to actually cover in this video. If you are interested in seeing that, hit subscribe and I will cover that soon. If you don't know, pipeline is figures that Hasbro has officially confirmed that they are making but have not actually revealed the physical product yet. Hey, if you leave this video a like, that really helps me out. Here is some other content that I think you may enjoy from my channel if you've made it this far. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.